and welcome to the Psychology of Resilience You Drive Me Crazy video. When I started my first ever job with West Yorkshire Police, I remember being really surprised when officers told me that the worst possible shift that they could have to work on was Christmas Day. And not for the reasons you might expect, which is not being able to spend it with their own family, but because in their words, Christmas Day is like Sunday on speed. Now I remember asking as a naive 20-year-old, well, what's wrong with Sundays? And they said, well, Sunday's the day that families have to spend together. And so we get a spike in domestic incidences. And then Christmas Day, people are staying together in the house without really going out at all and fueled by alcohol. So hence Sunday on speed. So sound familiar? So the thing is that we are hearing that there are some worrying spikes in domestic incidences and domestic violence going on as a result of the lockdown situation, and I hope that nobody watching this is in those very challenging circumstances. What I wanted to talk about today was the more, I suppose, mundane element of that frustration that comes from knowing what someone is going to say just before they say it. I mean, the phrase familiarity breeds contempt is a cliche for a reason. You know, why do you say that? Why do you do that? Why do you eat like that? These are the sorts of things that when we are confined to a certain space with the same people can sort of flare up and you can get these conflicts. But actually there are three key weapons that we have to fight against this type of conflict. And I want to tell you about those. They are taking some time out, curiosity, and a common goal. So just explaining a little bit about the psychology of conflict, I suppose. So psychologists have found that we have two processing systems for any event that we face in our life. And these are a hot processing system and a cool processing system. Now, for those of you who watched my first video on why people are being weird, you'll recognise the hot processing system as our emotional orange. So this is that part of your brain that controls anger and disgust and frustration and fear. And this is where we will lash out because people are getting on our nerves or winding us up. And then our cool processing system is that mindful broccoli, that sort of intricate intelligence and cool, calm, rational thought. Now, you might be expecting me to say when it comes to conflict that the hot processing system is bad and the cool processing system is good. But of course, we all know that ain't true, because anybody who has any sort of interpersonal relationships with people know that that person who just won't have the row, that person who's always cool and calm and rational, well, they can be just as infuriating as the person who is stamping their feet and having a tantrum. So the actual essence of where conflicts come from is really differences, isn't it? So differences of perspective, differences of preference, differences of purpose. And in fact, more than that, the conflict is born out of our, I suppose, misunderstanding of those differences or our misinterpretation of them. And this comes from a very natural perspective that we all have, which is to use ourselves as some sort of normality gauge. So you tend to think, well, hi, I'm Leona, I'm normal. So all the other normal people in the world, well, they think like me and they behave like me and they react like me. And if you don't think like me and behave like me and react like me, then quite frankly, you must be a little bit weird. Now, trust me, as a psychologist, having spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds, I can confirm that there is no normal. We are all just shades of weird. And so this breeds this sort of sense of frustration that, well, if I'm normal and you're not behaving normally like I would, then there must be something wrong with you. And that can lead to all sorts of frustrations and conflicts and anger, and ultimately to things like prejudice and discrimination, which are the sort of ultimate outcomes of this type of conflict in opinion or behaviour or action. Now we know from all of the research into diffusing prejudice and discrimination that the most powerful tactic we have is education. So when we understand a little bit more about why people are behaving a certain way or thinking a certain way, then it changes how we process it. So I suppose we move from that hot system of processing where we judge it to the more cool system of processing where we are able to appreciate it. We might not agree with them, but we now understand that they have a reason or a rationale for the way that they view the world or for the things that they do. And that increases our tolerance for that difference. So when it comes to sort of handling conflicts that might flare up in your family and your household, it is thinking about, well, how do we sort of take some of these lessons about where the conflict comes from to understand how we can best deal with it. So the first thing is that when people infuriate us, chances are we are going to react, most of us, with that sort of hot processing orange and just put a bit of citrus into that situation and a bit of judgment into that situation. So having some time out is particularly useful. If you remember from my video on why people are being weird, when the orange floods our brain with any sort of dramatic emotion like anger or irritation, it lasts for around about 20 minutes before it dissipates to an extent that your sort of intellectual, rational thinking takes over again. So getting yourself out of that situation for 15 to 20 minutes is going to help you get a bit more perspective and certainly help you to respond maybe in a more calm manner. So that's the first thing. The other thing is improving that understanding of why your loved ones are reacting to this situation differently or behaving differently. And that requires curiosity. Which is having conversations that increase your knowledge. So we have all this time together, and that time together could breed frustration and be harmful to our relationships. But equally, that time together gives us an opportunity to find out more about the people that we love and what motivates them and what frustrates them. So asking questions of your loved ones when you are in that cool processing sort of frame of mind can be really interesting and enlightening. And the things that we sort of have to judge, we have to be careful here, is that when we have these sorts of communications, which are conversations around things that frustrate us, we can tend to fall into two traps. The first is we compete. So well, you don't know how hard it is for me, actually. You might say that about your situation, but imagine what it's like for me over here. So we do that sort of toing and froing and competing. Or we do character judgments. Well, you would feel like that or you would behave like that because you are an impatient person. We've all done it, haven't we? So because we know these people so well and we know their flaws, it's very easy to throw them at them in times of challenge. So one thing to help you sort of think about how to have a more constructive conversation, I suppose, is to just make your whole dialogue more about curiosity. So I'm not here to pass judgment. I am not here to play the blame game. I am just here to understand. So I'm going to listen more than I talk. And then the final element of that is having some sort of common goal that we're all working towards. So what sort of experience do we want to have as a family unit or a partnership during this lockdown period? Are we looking to relax? Are we looking to have fun and quality family time? Are we looking to challenge ourselves and take on new hobbies? Are we looking to help out the community and do the best that we can? What do we have shared in our ambitions so that when we look back, we can say we achieved what we wanted to achieve? This is like a little bit of glue that pulls us together and stops some of the more peripheral frustrations from getting us down. And if I can give you a little bit of a personal illustration of how this might work, just from my own experience of being in lockdown with a very hyperactive 6-year-old. So you might have seen her in the video on I Like to Move It. So my daughter just doesn't want to sleep. And a few nights ago, up in her bedroom, it was gone 9 o'clock, and in a very exhausted sort of frame of mind, I said, "Don't you ever get tired?" To which she looked at me and said, "Yes, Mummy." And I was a little bit incredulous. I said, When is this time that you are tired? And she said, "In the mornings." And straight away, the sort of, I suppose, final piece in the puzzle of our conflicts fell into place because we had been clashing most mornings and most evenings. And this was because my daughter is a night owl and I am a lark, albeit a lark in denial who likes a lion. But essentially, my approach to any day is to get up and crack on, get as much done as I can by lunch, have my lunch as late as possible, because as soon as I've eaten, my energy starts to deplete, and by the time I get to my evening meal, I'm no good for anything. But my daughter is the opposite way round. She is slowly coming round until lunchtime, and then after that, she's on fire, firing on all cylinders. Let's go, 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 go. And so just knowing this information about these differences just helped us to, I suppose, negotiate a way forward so we could avoid sort of falling into this trap of every morning and every evening fighting over what we were going to do and how we were going to spend our time. We agreed that in the mornings she could spend an hour just watching cartoons, vegging out a bit while Mummy gets organised for the day. And in the evenings, Mummy could veg out a little bit and read a book or watch some trash on the telly, and she would occupy herself in her bedroom doing some drawing or some crafts or playing. What this meant is that, or what this has meant, is that we both get some time out at the points where we need it, where we are most fatigued. Her in the morning when she's just woken up, me in the evenings as I'm preparing to go to bed. We also have a bit more understanding by having that conversation, and I am now able to say to her the other night when she wanted to play hide and seek at 10 to 9, said, remember, Mummy gets tired in the evening, sweetheart, maybe we can play it tomorrow. And she gave me a hug and said, oh, I remember, I'll play with my dollies instead. So this understanding of each other is helping us to navigate these little moments of potential conflict. And then also, we have this common goal, I suppose, that we have decided that we would like to make this experience as enjoyable as we possibly can, as much fun as we can possibly make it. And so by managing our own fatigue and managing those points where we might get annoyed with each other and sort of moving around each other in an agreed manner, hopefully we have more of a chance of being able to look back and say, that was a privileged time that we had together. And most of it, we enjoyed it. So hopefully this is giving you a little bit of a sense of, if you are experiencing some frustrations with the people you love, how you can sort of maybe use your time to just learn more about them and actually improve the relationships that you have and the insights that you have into them with this time that we have, which, whilst might be frustrating at times, is also an incredible luxury to have this quality time with our loved ones. So I hope that's helped you, and I look forward to seeing you on my next video. Thank you very much.